This is AFTV VIP, the official web app with members-only content, has no ads and a live in-game match center. The bias predictor, it has daily polls and the AFTV 11 selector. Just one click away. Hi and welcome along to AFTV News Daily. I'm back in the hot seat. Big up Cecil and big up James who were here last night, but I'm back in the hot seat tonight. It's Friday, right? A week into is it a week? Well, I'm losing track of days, man. A week into this lockdown thing. We are here and I've got a very special guest with me today. Always love when he's on board. We got Turkish in the building. How you doing, Turkish?
Come on, Rob. I love as always.
Yeah, respect, man. How's it been? How's the lockdown been treating you?
Lockdown, what lockdown, mate? It's completely different to the first one. Obviously, I've had to do my thing for my nan and my grandparents, the weekly shopping and whatnot. The first lockdown, the roads were empty. Now it doesn't look that much of a lockdown anymore.
It's true, man. Like, you know, even I was out like about half an hour ago, and it's just like normal. Apart from the major shops are closed, apart from that, there's not a lot of difference.
Yeah, there isn't. That's what I'm saying. So it is what it is, obviously. We got to do what we got to do, working from home anyway. So that hasn't really had much impact there. But yeah, just plodding along, man, moving forward as always.
Well, it's Friday. You know, pre-lockdown, probably looking for somewhere to go out tonight or go for a drink or whatever like that. But no such thing right now. They didn't really. Is there football on tonight? I don't even know. There's not even really no football on tonight, is there?
Not that I know. Not that I know, no.
It was all last night. Did you watch any of it last night?
Last night was the qualifiers as well. I watched the England game. I watched the highlights of the Hungary game. Szoboszlai. Did you see his winner?
No, I didn't. I didn't see.
I go to that. The Szoboszlai.
Pronounce that again. So is that the right pronunciation?
That's what I've been told, Rob.
Szoboszlai.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. So that's what I'm going with. Szoboszlai. No one corrected me on that. That's calm. That's calm. But he scored a last-minute winner. He cut in from the left, running on the ball. He's tall. He looks good. Like I've only seen clips of him here and there over the last maybe 4, 5, 6 months. But you know, that's someone we've been linked to. I doubt it in January, but someone at the end of the season, hopefully we can do something about.
Saying it could be a cheaper alternative to Hossein Mawar because they're saying that he'd probably be available for around about 25 mil. Yeah,
but whatever it is, we need both. We need both type of players. When you look at our midfield, Rob, it's lacking in many areas, and especially when you look at the ages of some of them. You know, some of them are near the end of their Arsenal career, and we've got a lack of depth already. So when the next couple go out, we're literally down to bare bones. Partey and Willock, I guess, are the only ones I see here in maybe 3 years. And Nene and Xhaka, I don't see it. So we've got a lot of players we need in the middle. So hopefully both.
Well, hold on a minute. We got one guy is there right now. But he can't get a game, right? And that is Mesut Ozil. Yeah, I thought tonight, right, we're going to talk about that dreaded O word, right? Which is, of course, Mesut Ozil. That's what we're talking about tonight, or that's one of the things we're talking about tonight. Remember, you guys drive the conversation. But Mesut Ozil. Right, we'll be lacking creativity in recent games. It's clear and obvious for everybody to see. Turkish, however, this guy is the most creative guy in the team, without a doubt. I think I don't think that's even in doubt. Chopped from the squads, sitting at home every time we got a game on. He's sat at home on social media, like us. Now. I don't know. What's your opinion on it? Right, we were told that it was done for footballing reasons, and let's just track what's kind of gone on with it. Yeah. Unai Emery was in charge. There seemed to be a problem. He was being dropped. He was being brought in. He was being dropped. He was being brought in. But played. At least he played. Yeah, played even in the Europa League final, which remember him trudging off in that game. And really, really getting on it, pissing off every Arsenal fan with his response to losing the final. Then now Arteta comes in, he starts playing him. Started getting played in quite a lot of games. Then there was the China incident.
That was in November. December, the
Yeah,
China.
yeah, that was actually before. You know, Arteta was playing him after that, but it was the China incident. Of course, we know Mesut Ozil was a passionate Muslim, was really upset about how the Uyghur Muslims are being treated in China and spoke up about it. Arsenal obviously didn't like that because, you know, obviously China's a massive market, and that didn't seem to go down well. However, he was still playing after that. So it wasn't like they bombed him out of the team after that. And then came the lockdown and players asked to take a pay cut, right? Mesut Ozil refused to take a pay cut. Said that he's not taking a pay cut. He's not sure where the money's going to go, blah, blah, blah. That obviously upset the hierarchy a lot. They're really upset about that. Then further down the line now, when they made 55 people redundant, Mesut Ozil came out and said, you see, I told you. That's why I didn't want to take a pay cut, and now I'm justified. Again, that really, really upset Arsenal. Then there was the Gunnosaurus incident, where Mesut Ozil offered to pay Gunnosaurus his wages after Gunnosaurus had been one of those people laid off by the club. Again, really, really obviously pissing the club off because, you know, they didn't, you know, they didn't like that.
Yeah.
Now we've been told he's been left out of the team because, you know, basically it's footballing reasons. He's not needed in the squad. But as I said, you can see that we're lacking creativity. What are your thoughts on it, Turkish?
First, is it my thoughts on Ozil the man or Ozil the footballer?
Both.
All right, let's start with positives. Yeah, let's start with Ozil the man, because there's a lot of positives there, a lot more positives than negatives. I think Ozil the man standing up for the Muslim issue in China, massive respect to that. You know, I'm a big fan of people in prominent positions, celebrities, famous people, people in the public eye speaking out. You know, far too often people make it and forget where they came from. Far too often people make it and go quiet about the issues they saw not too long ago. You know, they conform to the system because they've made it. Whereas I like people that stand out from the crowd. I like people that take a risk. You know, Muhammad Ali did it. You know, and people did it since, but Muhammad Ali is someone I highly respect and rate, and someone I looked up to a lot when I was young, and even now, you know. And I think Ozil standing up, massive respect to that. You know, even the pay cut issue, at the time I said he should be taking it. And I kind of stand by that, because I think if everyone takes the pay cut, everyone should take it. Some people not taking it, some people taking it. It's going to cause some sort of division. It's going to upset someone in the hierarchy. So I think maybe should have just taken it. You know, we've already got enough problems at the club, you know, let alone having that over our heads during lockdown where there's no football. You know, we were still in the headlines in a negative vein during lockdown because of these things, when in reality, it should have been a quiet period for Arteta to kind of maybe get through to the squad as much as he can over Zoom or whatever they was doing, and then potentially get back post-lockdown and get things running again. But that caused issues, I guess, and it looks like that played a big part in the decisions in the end. But more on Ozil the man is he's also got a very good PR machine in terms of his agent. You know, his agent knows when to say the right things at the right time. You know, whether it's a Bergkamp quote under Unai Emery or whether it's a Gunnosaurus back in, I'll pay his wages under Arteta. All I can say is, Rob, as a man, let's say as a man, you're managing a team or you're just managing someone, and out Ozil on Twitter before the start of this season, Ozil on Twitter came out and he'd done a Q&A on Twitter. And you choose these questions, even if AFTV done a Q&A on Twitter, you're going to have bags of questions you don't see, let alone Mesut Ozil doing a Q&A. But he chose to pick out the question that, are you going to start this weekend? And he replied with, I'm fit and I'm ready, but I don't select the squad. He chose to answer that, and he chose to answer it in that way. If I'm Arteta, if you're Arteta, Rob, isn't that a sign of, oh, you're trying to put pressure on, man? Look how many followers he has. You've picked that question out of probably millions of questions, and you've said that I'm fit, I'm ready, but I don't select the squad. Now, in hindsight, I also think at that time he was already told, we don't need him no more. We want him to go. So him saying that, he knew is pressure at the right time, just before the start of the season when things are just about to kick off. PR machine in exercise again, perfect timing. And we've seen that far too often from Ozil too. In the last 2-3 years since his contract, he's been in the headlines. Not even once has he been in the headlines for footballing reasons since he signed that 350k contract. Not even once has he been the star of the show. People might pick out the Leicester game, and he done very well in the Leicester game. It was a very good game, very good performance, 8, 9 out of 10. Cool. But when you're paying a man that, he needs to be making the difference consistently. That's when you make the headlines. That's when you stand out from the crowd. So going to Ozil, the footballer, last season, Rob, there's statistics there. And statistics don't say everything, but they can say a lot. He played 18 games. He didn't play 20 games. And there wasn't much difference there in chances created. There wasn't much difference there in goals scored. There was a difference in goals conceded, more so with Ozil in the team. And other little things was close. So there wasn't much difference, and it was a fair comparison. The games he played was under Arteta when he was favoured. The games he didn't play was under Emery, where it was possibly our worst patch in the last decade. So that favours him, but the stats on paper do not. So as much as we lack creativity now, it's an easy headline again. Lack creativity, Mesut Ozil. It happened under Emery, and it's happening under Arteta again. And even if we call Mesut Ozil back into the squad in January, Rob, he's done in 5 months. What real use is that? Unless we are vying for top 4, and he is the type of player to grab games by the scruff of their neck and win us games, which he hasn't been since he's been at the club. Sanchez was that guy. Sanchez would grab a game by the scruff of the neck and win it for us. Ozil's never been that guy. So he's not going to come and do it at 31 years of age in the last 5 months of his contract when he's been treated in the manner he's been treated in by the club, whether right or wrong. They've both, there's wrong on both sides. And as we know, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
So basically what you're saying is, as a man, love what he represents and the causes and stuff like that, but you're in agreement that he shouldn't be playing.
Yeah, because you can't say, you can't come on Twitter and tell millions of fans that I'm fit and I'm ready and it's not my decision. You've basically put all that pressure on Arteta. Now, we are all behind Arteta, and more so at the beginning of the season before our dip in form. All behind Arteta. But Ozil came to draw his sword against him, basically, and say, okay, let's see if you're going to start me. After being told that he wasn't in his plans already. Ozil was told this summer that we don't need him. He dug his heels in.
Yeah, but you can be a player and say to yourself, well, you know what? I want to fight for my place. Because don't you think, because you can look on it on the other hand and say to yourself, right, obviously, like what he said, he's on £350,000 a week is what the rumour says, right? Now, as Mesut Ozil said, I never asked to be put on that, right? At the time when I was put onto that contract, there was other clubs out there that wanted me. And Arsenal, in desperation to keep me, offered me that money, right? I didn't go to any of those other places. I didn't take up any of those offers. I decided I'm going to stay here and I'm going to play for Arsenal. So now if he's fit and he's ready to play, what's wrong with him saying that? I'm fit and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play. It's almost like the amount of money that he's on every week is the issue. They're obviously trying to, it's obvious to me that under Emery, they were trying to sort of make things uncomfortable for him that he'd just say, you know what, I want to go. But he's dug his heels in. He said, I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying till the end of my contract. That's what I signed. And I'm fit and ready to play. What's wrong with saying that?
It's when you've been told that you're no longer needed by the club and you've been dropped towards the back end of last season, you know where you're at and what it is at the moment.
Would you leave?
Would I leave?
Would you leave? You're on £350,000 a week. You're a footballer. You're on 350k a week, right?
Yeah.
Why would you, other clubs out there might be interested. They might say, all right, you know what, Turkish, I'll give you 100 grand a week. You're like, oh, shut up, man. I'm on a 350. What am I going to go and play for 100 for? I'm staying here.
Yeah, but even in the listen, his reputation is done and dusted now. Like the team he's going to go on to next is not going to be the team that, he once was at, let's say, in the Arsenals and Real Madrids. But I'd like to think that I'd like to prove myself and the other team wrong. I'd like to think that I'd move on and say, listen, look at what you've missed out on. See, it wasn't me. You know, I don't think I'm that sort of person to dig my heels in. I do understand the money aspect, and who knows in that situation what I would do depending on the costs I have every month. You know, it might be a wild lifestyle I live and I need that fucking money, you know, so it is what it is. But I get that. And it is our fault for giving the money. We panicked. It's just another example of mismanagement. It's not his fault he got the money, but it was another good PR exercise. And at the same time, only Man United wanted him around that time. And then Man United opted for Sanchez anyway. You know, they opted for the main man. And then Ozil was left to us and we gave him the main man money. And that main man money held us back for quite a few years. Oba got the main man money this year. And he got the main man money because Nick Ozil's contract's done. You know, and that doesn't mean now Ozil's contract's done, we're going to bring in a main man. I don't even think that anymore because we've already given that main man money to Oba. So we've got the main man here already, you know. So it's mismanagement again. It's slow. It's like I said, Arsenal are wrong too. Mesut Ozil is wrong too. They're both wrong in this situation, and it should have been sorted not the summer just gone, but the summer before that with Unai Emery. I think after that Europa League final, as much as the club made it hard for him in that season, he was still selected and he was still relied upon, and he was one of the biggest letdowns, you know. But it's easy to forget his inconsistencies when he hasn't been in the team for so long, and then trouble arises. We start thinking, "Ooh, will he change it?" But in reality, he hasn't changed it in the past.
All right, let me do a couple of minutes because there's so many comments coming in on this subject. Take Me Back says the agenda against Ozil is out of line. It's been managed badly. His form was poor, and he did create dissent in the dressing room against both Emery and Wenger. We devalued him. He could sue us. Sue us.
Yeah, it's a bit mad.
Wayne says anybody who thinks that Ozil wouldn't make a difference in the squad, rather than having 5 registered goalkeepers, as an agenda against Ozil. There you go. You got an agenda? I mean, you know, you're saying
obviously
you're saying you want to make a difference. Listen, come on, Turkish. If you've got the team at the moment, right, and you have, like, say, 3 in midfield, Partey, Xhaka, and Ozil in front of them. Come on, man. We'd create more, wouldn't we?
Yeah, but remember there came a time when we said, let's say we had a fast striker in front of in front of Ozil, or good wingers in front of Ozil. And it's always, what if we've got this for Ozil, or what if we've got that for Ozil? Why is it always that? You know? Why doesn't he ever grab it?
For him now? Why not try it now that we have got Partey in? I mean, I'd like to listen. I know what you're saying. He's not what he was, but I'd like to see him in there. I mean, Mackenzie Edwards says we have a player of £350,000 a week to be a Twitter admin. Right? He said we have to find a way to integrate him into the squad. I have a bad feeling this will get uglier than it is already.
I doubt it gets uglier. I think we're at the pinnacle of the ugly right now, because he's in the last few months of his contract, so it's coming to an end. You know, it might get uglier when he can finally speak about the issue in a few years, but I don't think it'll get uglier now. I think it is what it is. But
all right,
Rob, Ozil in the squad, obviously ahead of 5 keepers. It's easy to say that, but when you have a breakdown in relationship with the man in charge, the manager, because let's not get it twisted, Arteta took all this on his chest. In that press conference, he said, he even tapped his chest, I made that decision. You can't ask a man to say it any more with his chest than he did. If it's a problem, come to me, you know.
Do you think he made that decision?
I do. Yes, I do.
You do? All right. Al Shabazz, I'm going to come back to you on that. Al Shabazz says, I think everyone will agree that the team we have now, including Partey, Ozil, will definitely have an impact. Ozil's critics, most of the time, were tracking back, not creating chances. He always creates. Sam Tressida says the club is doing nobody any favors by leaving so much unanswered. It feels as though they fear a backlash. Otherwise, they would give more details. And Adele, with a simple one to you here, Turkish says, Ozil, the most creative player at Arsenal. Why ain't he playing? You know what I mean? And you're saying there that you believe that's Arteta's decision. Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
I feel that's come from higher up. I don't think that's Arteta's decision.
No, I do. I think it's Arteta's decision. I think some of the things that's happened between Arteta and Ozil, like the Twitter thing, for example, shows me that something's happened with them as well. You know, and I think with the pay cut thing, I think it was Arteta's first 6 months in charge or 4 months in charge even, and it was a big thing for him to go to the squad and probably tell them about this pay cut and ask them about this pay cut, and to have maybe in that scenario to have your main man, you know, looking at you and questioning you, it doesn't put you in a good position as a manager, you know. So decisions had to be made, and I think taking it the way he done. Listen, someone said we want some more backstory, and we do, but then defamation of character comes into place and all that, and then you can really be sued, you know. As much as Ozil hasn't leaked much, because he hasn't leaked much, Ozil just flirts with leaking stuff, and the fans do the rest of the job, you know. Even his statement he made, he didn't say much, but the fans ran with it and said a lot, you know, because he knows what to say at the right times. I just think Arteta made the decision. I think how can a club say to you as a manager, don't play that guy? I just don't see it happening. As effed as we are,
I can see it. I can see it. I mean, sorry, we'll just do this. I'm going to come back to that again. Carl says, big up AFTV. Ozil is done. We need to move on. Continuously discussing him as a topic divides our fan base. Do either of you really believe Ozil would have helped us win at Liverpool, Man City, or Villa? But listen, Kyle, the reason why we're discussing it is that every single day I've come on with a live, whether it be morning, evening, free Ozil, Ozil should be playing. After that Villa game, the amount of people that came on and said that he should be playing. Now, going back to what you just said there, Turkish, where you say, do you believe that people above would have been telling, you know, telling Arteta he's got to play? I do believe that, yes. Because to me, it's a very difficult decision for a manager to turn around and drop a player who's on £350,000 a week and say, you're not even included in the squad. You could just imagine the owner of the club on the phone to the manager going, yo, what? Hey, bro, you know how much money I'm paying this guy? And you're telling me he's not even in the squad. Where am I going to get that money back from? You're telling me that he's not even, what, you haven't even selected him for the Europa League squad? Are you going to give me back that money there? That's come from above, man. I'm sorry. I ain't Turkish, man. That decision, for me, that's come from higher up. That ain't just, I know what Arteta said. I like Arteta. I love that he's quite strict in that, but I just feel that this one's out of his hands. That's my opinion. He might have fronted it, but I'm not having it.
So do you think Arteta's the type of man, because we don't know a lot about Arteta, but like we can gain a perception from what we know. Do you think he's the type of man to, like, because him and Ozil played together, him and Ozil know each other, you know, he started Ozil a lot before the lockdown. Do you think Arteta's the type of man to just bend over and do as he's told, and with that, you know, show a lack of maybe respect or loyalty to someone who classed him as a friend? Do you see because you're basically like, if you think it come from above, and Arteta's a snake.
No, but he could go to Urs and go, yeah, Bridget, we have a chat with you, man. You don't know I want to play you, yeah? But yeah, the man in upstairs are saying that it can't work, you know. They're saying I can't play you, bro. I mean, I would like to play you, but they're saying I can't play you, man.
And then the Twitter thing indicates that it's a bit more ferocious than that. It's not as friendly as that anymore. So it's not just footballing reasons. It's stuff that's happened outside of it. It is stuff that's happened.
Never footballing reasons. Never. Nobody can convince me, as bad as Ozil's been in some games, and I remember I was cussing that guy when we was at the final, the Europa League final. I saw him trudging off like that. I was cussing him, but nobody can tell me that this is a footballing reasons thing when I see how little we are creating in games. Yeah. Imran says whether he plays or not, we're paying his salary, so why not play him? He's still got quality that he can bring to the team. And Gunamo, in a bit different, this one. He's saying Saliba must be absolutely heartbroken seeing his friend Fofana playing week in, week out. They were playing against PSG in the final. Now he's playing against Gillingham. That's true. You know what? What about that? We can digress slightly onto that as well. That's another one.
Yeah, that's definitely another one. And did you see Arteta's comments that he said he's fed up of the Saliba situation? And that that indicates to me that the board didn't do their job this summer. If you're fed up with it, something didn't go right, and that indicates that as much as Arteta come out and said the board are supporting me and backing me, they obviously haven't fully, even if it's just that one example we have as fact, and it is fact now, because he's fed up. And Saliba's probably fed up. And now even I'm fed up of hearing about Fofana at Leicester compared to Saliba, because we hear about it every week now, but I understand the need for him to potentially go out on loan for another year or potentially be bedded in a bit simpler. But the Europa League was easy, 6 games there where he could start every single one of them and we should still win regardless of knowing not too much about him. So I think that we made a mistake there, and I think Arteta owns up to that mistake, saying he's fed up with it and potentially we could have used him now. But I feel like I understand the reasoning behind it. It is just a shame now. We got players that have let us down in the past, letting us down again because of it,
Okay, made in Brooklyn 1975 says, why waste all this energy discussing Ozil when he isn't even registered to play at the moment? I'll keep telling you, bro. Look at, you know what? Don't even go by my. Look at the other comments in here today. Look how many people are backing Ozil. Look how many people are vexed about this Ozil situation. That's why I've been saying it all week. Should we talk about the O word? Then I thought today, you know what? Let's get it out of the way, man. We got to get it out in the open. It's the elephant in the room. Wayne Shade says nobody's saying Ozil has to start every single match. At a minimum, he should be on the bench. I agree with that. But completely out of the squad makes no sense. Not even in the Carabao Cup. Really?
He's
right there.
If a man tries to get millions of followers onto me, I'm leaving him out too. That's how I'm looking at it. Because he's basically made it player versus manager then. You've made it player versus manager, Rob. And the moment you give in and then start playing him again, other players are going to look around and think, this man is soft. You know what I'm talking about. Like, is it? And he can't have that as a manager. Same with Guendouzi. Guendouzi's someone I like a lot. Yeah, I think he can become something. But I understand Arteta's decision because he challenged him. He didn't want to apologize for the way he acted against Brighton. And as a manager, if you let him slide with it as a teenager, especially, other players are going to look at you with less respect. Same way Ozil drew the sword, Arteta drew his sword too. And that sword is not playing you. So as much as it's easy to say on the bench, it makes sense because it does. But it's more than football. It's player versus manager now. And the manager has the card where I don't have to select you if I don't want to. And he wins,
It's a very expensive point to prove. My thing is not even having him in the squad. It just don't make no sense. On that Saliba thing, then, has Saliba then been a total waste of money?
You can't say that yet because he might turn into something special. But
we've had him now, right? It's gonna. So look at it this way: we bought him. If he goes out on loan, that's 2 years. £27 million, rising to 30.
Yeah.
Send him out, to send him back to the team we bought him for, and then to send him out on loan for next season. And then he might come in, have a good season, and then say, "Yo, you know what? I want to leave this place, man. Boy, they don't even want to play me."
It's silly for.
It's weird. It's weird.
No, it's silly for a club like us, Rob. I can't lie to you. If you look at someone like Liverpool doing that, you can maybe understand because Van Dijk might be getting on a bit at that age, and then you got this young one coming who's had a couple of years experience, and he might slot in a bit better. With us, we need it then and now. We could maybe wait a year for the potential, but when that year comes and then you're told you have to wait another year and then you're seeing the same faces again at the back, making mistakes again, of course it's going to come into question because it's a lot of money for us. At the end of the day, we don't really spend money like that. We have spent money, but we don't spend money like that. And to give 30 million away on a defender that we haven't seen for 2 years, on paper, that sounds horrible for Arsenal Football Club.
So, I mean, we ain't got the money to be doing that.
Yeah, we don't.
Chelsea can do that. You know what I mean? They can get players like that and send them out of loan. You never hear about them after that. But we can't afford to, that's why I'm looking at it now. I'm saying if this year goes and Saliba doesn't play, it's a waste of money in a way. Or we've wasted a big chunk of that money.
Yeah.
Who are we to be saying, take 2 years to develop? Honestly, I'm a bit baffled. I'm very baffled by it.
It's more questions to be asked of the people in charge again. You know, these are decisions made from higher up again. If you look at the last 2 years, Rob, Saliba, that situation has been a bit of a mess. Pepe, that situation seems to be a bit of a mess. Torreira, Guendouzi, in and out within 2 years. You know, Socrates, not in the squad no more. We signed him 2 years ago. You know, Luis came in 1 year, done horribly. Most red cards, most penalties given away. We gave him another year. There's a lot of questions we could ask this board based off of just the last 2 years. And you know me, if I start delving into 10 years, this show could be an hour and a half if I really get into it. But the last 2 years, mismanagement across the board. Yet again, in Saliba, a manager fed up. It doesn't make for good reading yet again, Rob. You know, Emery was fed up at one point at Arsenal. And I get why, because you hear he wanted Partey and Fabinho, and he got Torreira and Guendouzi. Well, Guendouzi, it seemed like he wanted, but maybe not relied upon him as much as he did. But, you know, it's frustrating because it's the same things you're hearing again, maybe in just different ways.
Is there somewhere? Adnan says Turkish is a hater of Ozil. Get this guy out.
I started with the positive as well. I started with Ozil the man.
Sure, he hate on him straight away.
That's a lot better than me rating the baller. I rate the man. The baller. Move on.
You don't think he could do a job then, Turkish?
Rob.
A job? Come on.
Regardless if he could do the job or not, he drew his sword and Arteta drew his. That's it.
Big man. Listen, you know what I mean? In football, it's not like the olden days football where if a player said anything against the manager, he just got bombed out of the team completely, right? You've got to be able to deal with characters. You've got to be able to deal. Imagine if you had Ibrahimovic here or someone like that. You've got to be able to deal with these big characters and big players like who's got a huge following and stuff like that. You've got to, you know what I mean? That's what you've got as a player. You've got to be able to deal with that, innit?
Yeah, you do. I think this is his way of dealing with it. I think obviously there's been managers there that would deal with it in a different way. And then you've got managers maybe like Jose who wouldn't have it either. You know, someone like Simeone wouldn't have it either. You got managers that are old school and have won stuff that wouldn't have this sort of attitude either. You know, draw the sword out on them man there. You can't. Obviously, with Arteta, it's different. He hasn't got clout. He's only been in charge. He's only been a manager nearly a year. It's been 11 months, you know. So he hasn't got that clout, that standing. So when a big player like that comes out against you, I think Arteta saying it's my decision with his chest is quite a big thing to put on your shoulders. You know, I'd be very surprised if he's lying, but I respect him for doing it because someone had to take it.
All right. Made in Brooklyn says there's a greater chance for Robin Van Persie of playing for Arsenal again than Mesut Ozil. I can't wait till his contract is over so we can move on. Jermaine says, look at Guendouzi, Pepe, Saliba and Ozil. Maybe Arteta is a disciplinarian and the orders to leave Ozil out didn't come from the board. Keep it up, Robbie. All right, that's fair, you know, because you know, Pepe as well been complaining this week about lack of play. I mean, there's a few little problems brewing up.
Yeah.
For Arteta, isn't there?
It's funny he says that. You know, when Arteta came in with the non-negotiables, and it's become a little famous term now, non-negotiables. Doesn't that sound like someone that takes things seriously? And if you don't have that, man said non-negotiables. You know, the way you put that, that sounds serious. That if you don't do this, we ain't talking. You know, you're moving or you're left out.
True.
You know, so it sounds like he is that type of manager. And with Guendouzi and with Ozil, you're seeing that sort of attitude.
Simon Carlos says, Robbie Turkish, big up. How long would you both give Arteta if it's not going well? I don't think he'll get long, which I want him, but the fan base is insane. How long do you give him? I mean, you know, it's been a bit of a mixed season to say the least so far, but there's been some positives, there's been some negatives. But how long do you give him to be, if he was in charge, how long would you give him?
It's a tough question, Rob, because I don't think it's him that we should be giving time to. I don't think it's him that we should be counting down the days or looking at a target with. I think same with Emery, for example. I didn't want to say Emery out until you saw the players were finished with him. You saw it was down tools, and then you had to. You know, with Arteta, I don't want to say it either. We can see some things that causes debate. We do want to see some changes. I understand that. But Rob, we didn't do it in the summer yet again, you know, and we're here yet again because of the same thing. You know, so how many times are we going to do this? Because we didn't have money to change manager last season. We sacked Emery. It took us 2 weeks with Freddie Ljungberg, and we were told in that 2 weeks, we don't have the money to get Allegri. We don't have that money. Imagine, we were told once, we were moving into the stadium to compete with Bayern Munich, only to drop into Europa League and be told we haven't got the money for a new manager. I haven't seen any other club say that in my life. Yeah, but we've come out and it's the reality. So if Arteta was to, you know, his situation becomes like Emery, players down tools. In December, we're 15th and on a 3-game losing streak. It looks like he's going to have to go. But that is not the main issue yet again, Rob. We will be in the same place again a year after and a year after at the very max because it's the same problems. It's the summer. So the answer to that question is I don't really have time for Arteta because we have to have another summer under him and another summer where it's proactive, not reactive. And
so you're saying he deserves at least another window then?
Yeah, he deserves a proper window. Yeah, because we've stuck with him for a year. Not stuck with him, but we've got him in place for a year now. All these contracts come to an end in July. Mustafi, Luiz, Socrates, Ozil, maybe a couple others come to an end in July. All that money gets freed up. You know, it needs to be him because if you bring in someone else, then all the work you've done in the last year, you know, you unravel it because you're going back to square one with a new manager. So, in my opinion, we have to see another transfer window. We also have to, as fans, hold our horses a bit with some of the reactions we have to, you know, managers when the transfer window is the most important.
Casey says Ozil has a bad attitude, and a poor work ethic. He's disruptive. I support Arteta. Send him packing. This is why we're discussing this. He really does divide opinion. Sam says, where do we find creativity in our current squad? A formation change. Willian as a number 10 and Pepe on the right. Saka on the left and Aubameyang down the middle. I'm with that. I'm with that at the moment. Yeah, Tej says Ozil is a great player. Don't let me not get it twisted here. He ain't a great player anymore. Let's be real. He's not a great player. He's a player in decline. However, my argument is this, right? We all know we wanted to get Hossein Mawar. We didn't manage to get Hossein Mawar. We're lacking creativity. You can see it in games. Surely Ozil off the bench. What we could have done is we could have included him in that Europa League squad and said, all right, go out there and show us that you still got it. You know, in these games against Dundalk and Rapid Vienna and those games and Carabao Cup, you go out there amongst a load of kids and that, show us what you got. And if he showed us some glimpses and he's still, you know, then you start to bring him in. You start to put him on the bench. But just bomb out a £350,000 a week player right completely out of the squad makes absolutely no sense to me. None. And that's why I think is something bigger to it. It's not even like, you know, the other thing I look on it, right? It's not even like we've bought a creative player into that position to replace him. So it's not like, say, we've promoted Smith Rowe up, for instance, to take his position, or Guendouzi's still here and he's... We ain't even got no one who can play that position.
You're not wrong.
I understand it. It's just does, you know, it don't make no sense to me.
No, you're not wrong, Rob. You're not wrong. It is more than football, but it makes sense to me. That's the only difference we have. It makes sense to me because his attitude hasn't been right either. Even when he had chances under Emery, we're too quick to forget what he did with those chances. And what did he do with those chances, Rob? Nothing.
He had a few decent games.
If we're going to mention his wages because of him being left out the squad, a few decent games for a 350k player is not good enough.
It weren't good enough, but I'm saying, who's to say he might have, I would have played him in some of those fringe games and see what he can do before I made that decision. He ain't had a chance.
December to March.
We've come back, for instance, the lockdown, Turkish. He ain't played a game.
You know, December to March he played.
No, since lockdown.
I know, but December
we returned back from the lockdown, right? When all the pay cut, that's why I feel, my personal opinion, I feel it's the pay cut thing, right? Because it was after that pay cut thing, we ain't seen him since. We come back after lockdown, the man ain't even had a game. The man's been fit, ready to play. He's not played one Carabao Cup game, one Europa League game. There's games that they could have put him in.
Yeah.
They ain't put him in even one game. To me, that's why I feel that decision's come from higher. And that's why I'm like, I would have liked to have seen him play at least, let us see. Because as I said, don't get me wrong, when I was at Baku and I saw his attitude, the way he come off the pitch, I was at that time, I was like, you know what? I don't really feel to see this guy again playing for my team. Because that attitude that day was terrible. But when the dust settled and everything, and then he played games after that, and there was some games he was okay in, I just don't get. And then we haven't signed Hossim. If we'd have signed him Hossim Awar, I understand it. We didn't sign Hossim Awar. We've got no creativity.
But like you said,
it don't make sense. It don't make sense.
But what you said there, yeah, it's like you was disappointed with him in the Europa League final, and you've been disappointed with him in the past. And yeah, he's been okay a few times after.
He's that type of player.
But he has to be held accountable as the highest earner and star man of this club. And even when he's had the chance, and this goes back to Wenger too, because the last year under Wenger, Ozil wasn't great. Ozil, even towards the end, was left out of a few starting lineups by Arsene Wenger. It started then. And then it moved on to Emery, and now it's moved on to Arteta. But we as fans can't forget the past so easily. We as fans need to understand that it wasn't so long ago we was pissed off with him and had enough. At the same time, it's easy to say with a lack of creativity because he is a creative player. But we need to, like, in this situation, I'm not saying blindly support Arteta in general, because if losses come thick and fast, it's not right. But in this situation, a decision's been made. And even if it is from above, it's a decision that's been made. And for Arteta, because even if we're aggrieved with this decision, the pressure's going on to Arteta, Rob. So even
to be fair to him, you're right. To be fair, he's said it's my decision, so he'll live and die by that decision. I'm just saying it just doesn't seem a fair decision. I mean, Newman here, this is a good point, actually, that this guy Newman makes. He says, Ozil can't front press. Arteta has an ideology and Ozil doesn't fit in it. As he's leaving anyway, what's the point in playing him? Well, I can give you 350,000 reasons for at least having him in the squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we can't use that as a reason to play him, Rob. At the end of the day, he hasn't performed. His attitude hasn't been right, and there's been times as fans, more often than not, it's for players looking to hold the club to ransom or trying to leave for bigger clubs that we've said put him in the reserves for a year. You know what I'm talking about. Leave him in the reserves for a year. He doesn't deserve to play. It's finally happened with a player, and everyone's crying about it. Everyone's saying, this and that about his human rights for Arsenal Football Club and that. I'm just saying, blood, the guy hasn't performed for us. He hasn't been selected. It was time to move on 2 years ago. But here we are still wondering if Ozil will come in and do something. He ain't going to do nothing, even if he came back in.
You can't say that.
I know that.
You can't say that.
I know
you ain't even seen him. You hadn't even seen him play under Arteta, and you can't say that, he's going to come in and do something.
We have seen him play under Arteta.
Oh, well, I mean, since the lockdown.
Yeah, but March wasn't that long ago, and we saw Ozil playing for Arsenal in March. It was 8 months ago. It was just then we saw the last glimpse of Ozil, and he's not the player, even if we brought him back in the squad, to change things around right now. Like I said, I've always maintained this. When you're in a period like this, Rob, yeah, where your back's against the wall as a football club and as players on the pitch, because it seems like you've been found out, yeah? Forget quality for a sec. The character and mentality of Mesut Ozil is not a player that stands out from that crowd. You know, you need a Sanchez in his prime type of character. Someone that grabs it by the scruff of the neck and picks everyone up around them and says, are you lot mad? Run, press, do this, do that, link up, takes control of the game. Ozil works brilliantly in a well-oiled team. We are so far from well-oiled. We are running on water or dirt right now, let alone oil. You know, we are far from that. We need a lot of WD-40 before Ozil can come and decide and actually impress. So for me, he's not the type of player, character, mentality-wise. Forget the quality for a sec. It's just that as well that plays a part.
I know, Turkish, you always speak passionately about signings and things like that. So, like how I've got you on, I've got to ask you this question. Believe it or not, even though the transfer window only shut in, it was the 6th of October, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Come what, just over a month's time, we're going to have another transfer window, the January transfer window at the end of December. What do we need in January? You know, and I know, listen, remember, hardly anybody gets the full package done in January, right? So realistically for you, what would you like to see happen in January, realistically?
Realistically, that's a mad question, Rob, because over the last 2 Januaries, we've only been able to get loan signings. So realistically, I don't know if you want realistic from me right now, but
all right, what you'd like to see, but you know, within reason, you know.
Yeah, okay. I think some sort of creative aspect into the team. You know, like I said earlier, we need.
It's there already. I told you. I'm only joking.
Don't bring it back now. Well, we have to move on now. A lot of people because of it. But I think we have to look at the middle and say that in the next, like I said, couple years, we're going to have to move on from man like El Nene and Xhaka, and that leaves us with Partey and Willock in the middle. So we need at least 3 more players in the middle. So I think starting with 1 in January, because we need it not only this season, but we need it for depth moving forward too. In January, it's not easy to maybe sign a Szoboszlai or a Aouar because it's mid-season. I get that. So you might need to bring in someone that's going to have a spark, but in the long run, maybe provide some good depth and rotation as well. Maybe a Buendia from Norwich. Obviously, Szoboszlai would be the ideal one. But in January, if you can only get players that, you know, maybe would push for one or at the lower leagues, I'd go for a Buendia at Norwich to bring in some. Yeah.
You got relegated. I mean, all right, yeah, he's.
You said realistic, bro.
Pretty good, actually. Yeah. He's got pretty good stats, but he did get relegated with Norwich.
Yeah, he did, but he shone in a not so great Norwich team, and I think, like I said, it wouldn't be the star one; it would be someone for depth and rotation moving forward.
Why has no one snapped him up then?
I'm not sure. Ben Rama was close to not being snapped up either, but you know, in the end, he did. He's someone that might have added something to us as well. You know, at the end of the day, like I said, we need 3 midfielders in the middle in the next 2 years. 3. So just saying Szoboszlai or Aouar doesn't really fill what we need. We need 3, and it's going to have to pick up pace soon.
So 3 midfielders, that's what you go for. That would be that's what you'd be looking to do in January.
Yeah. Not 3 not all 3 midfielders in January. One.
Oh, okay.
One, because that's realistic. 1 player is realistic, but bring in 1, and if it's a loan thing, maybe go for an Isco or just tempt the waters there. If it's a loan signing that we can do, it needs to be something in the creative mode. You know, it needs to be something with a spark.
In general, when you look around the team, do you think that team's good enough to challenge for the top 4 this season?
But the team we have now,
yeah.
Before the season, I wasn't confident, but again, I always say it, Rob. My confidence comes from the other teams now. You know, when Man United slip up, when Chelsea slip up, when Tottenham slip up, when Liverpool, Man City slip up, it makes me think this season's different to ones that have gone past. That gives us a chance because it looks like a wild season. So yes, we can make top 4 because it looks wild. My confidence doesn't come from the club. My confidence comes from others' inconsistencies, and that's a major problem. You know, Everton's confidence moving into this season, it came from the club because they brought in Angelotti and then they brought in players in the summer. You know, the confidence of, let's say, a Tottenham towards the end of the window where they got a Reguilon and a Gareth Bale, it come from the club. You know, we seem to always get confidence from other teams. Like last summer with the Nicolas Pepe transfer, it was we've spent the most this summer. But if you look at the other teams, they didn't spend as much as they usually do. So yes, we did spend the most but why are we always looking at other teams to gain our confidence and get our hopes up? So for me, we can make top four, but it's because of the inconsistencies around us, not because of what this club is doing at the moment.
Okay, couple more comments here. Well, loads of comments. Itzy Cypher says Ozil isn't being played because Arsenal won't get the Chinese sponsors after his comments. But Ozil can't say this because of his contract, and he reckons, and that's from a United fan. Jack Hammond says Salzburg have a history of selling in January. Go for Szoboszlai. All right, he has a release clause. Would you try and get him in January?
That's the case, then yeah, if it's a 25, 30 million release clause, then definitely you need to snap him up quick because, like I said, just yesterday, he scored the winner for Hungary, took them to the Euros. So listen, people are going to be looking out for him. And Red Bull have done very well with their clubs in terms of bringing players through in the last few years. So we might as well. We need to take risks, Rob, you know? So let's do it for once.
We've taken a lot of risks. Do you reckon...
Not enough. Pepe was the only risk we've taken, transfer-wise.
Yeah, and it's not really working. On that, as you bring it up, Pepe, he's another one that's been moaning this week about lack of playing time and not being really happy at the situation and stuff like that. And is he being treated harshly?
I'd say so. I think Arteta made comments about Willian the other day before the game, saying like, he's taken time to bed in. He's developing well over the last couple of games. He needs to get used to the system. He can make the difference in the final third. And I thought to myself, but why don't you say these things about Nicolas Pepe? You know, I thought to myself, everything you said there about Willian, you can say for Pepe. But when you talk about Pepe, it's a lot more aggressive in a sense where he has to be more consistent over 90 minutes. But Pepe can make the difference in the final third too. So I do feel like there's some, I don't know what it is, but I've started to see something that makes me think Arteta just doesn't like him, you know?
Going forward into obviously after the international break, it's Leeds away. That's a tough game. Do you think we should be changing the formation for that game? I mean, what would your front three be for that game? What would your team be for that game? Give me your team for that game. Your team and formation going into that Leeds game. We know that Leeds are going to be a very attacking team. That's how they play. They don't play anywhere else. They're going to come and they're going to have a go. Well, they're at their place. They're having a go.
Yeah.
What would your formation and team be for that game?
All right. So the formation, it would be a 4-3-3. I think things are coming, whereas, let me use Arteta's term, non-negotiable. So we'll go through some of them as we go through the team. But I'll go with a 4-3-3.
4-3-3.
Yeah, obviously Leno in goal. I'd go with Maitland-Niles right back.
Not Bellerin.
No. I'd go with Maitland-Niles. Bellerin, listen, did you see him against Villa? Mate, he needs to sit on the bench.
Previous to that, though, he's been playing well.
No, Man City game, he allowed too much space against Foden. They scored that goal from there. The Liverpool game, every goal came from his side. Rob, people say he's been playing good, but in reality, he's cost us the same sort of goals he's cost us year in, year out. That's Liverpool, Man City, and Villa, off the top of my head. You know, Man United game, his best performance in a couple of years. I'll give him that. But around that, it's been poor again. And Aston Villa, we knew Jack Grealish was the biggest threat, and Rob Holding and Bellerin, here you go, mate. You know, take it on a plate. That's what they've done. So Bellerin needs to drop. That's non-negotiable. I think Maitland-Niles needs to come in.
All right.
I think Gabriel and Luiz, centre-back pairing. Holding, horrible against Aston Villa. I say Luiz through gritted teeth because he's the only one that I can say next to Gabriel. Kieran Tierney, left-back. Let's put him back in his position and get the attacking side out of him. The two in the middle, let's say the pivot, Partey and Ceballos. I'm intrigued to see Ceballos next to Partey. There was a lot of potential behind Ceballos, so hopefully Partey can unleash that a bit. In front of them too, it will be Willian. And then the front three.
Willian in the number 10.
Yeah, attacking mid number 10 position. And then the front three would be, like we said earlier, Saka on the left, Ober up top, and Pepe on the right. I think that's a good balance. One winger, left-footed, left wing. One winger, left-footed, right wing, cuts in. And then you got Ober up top. I think, like you said, Leeds are going to go for it. So why don't we just do the same thing?
Do you think maybe the system that we've been playing, actually, that is a system to play against a Leeds? It's going to be ultra attacking and catch them on the counter?
Yeah, like, don't get it twisted, Rob. As much as I want to open up a bit, I've said this over the past few weeks too. We all want to see more creativity and attack. But as soon as we open up on the attacking front, best believe we're opening up defensively too. Guaranteed. You know, the only reason before the Villa game we had the best defensive record, the only reason we started winning more big games against big teams is because Arteta brought organisation and structure in, and we was defence first, attack second, you know. And it's been a long time since we were confident in games like we have been under Arteta in terms of organisation and structure. So we have to be realistic and say, as much as we want to open up, it's going to be a risk. And I wouldn't be surprised in seeing a 3-2 Leeds game, 4-3. And when you open up, you're at risk to lose and be on the back end of them defeats too. And how many years on end did we see 3-2 defeats, 3-0s turn into 3-3s, 4-0s to 4-4s? So many end-to-end games where it didn't work out in our favor. We wanted more organization and structure. Let's not be too quick to forget that. That is the base we need to create and build on. And hopefully now is the push that Arteta needs to change.
Okay. Here's a couple of questions coming in. This one from Liban. He says, what do you expect from Mari when he comes back? He's not far off now. He's making progress. Pablo Mari, what do you expect from it? I was interested the other night. I was coming home. It was quite late, and I was listening to Phil Vickery, who's like a South American football expert, and he was talking about Flamengo. And of course, remember Pablo Mari was at Flamengo, and he was saying, and remember when Pablo Mari was at Flamengo, they won the South American version of the Champions League. They got to the final of the Super Cup. They won the league in Brazil. But since Pablo Mari's left, they haven't been performing. This is what Phil Vickery is saying. Obviously, I've not really seen Flamengo's games. But he was saying that they've not really been performing like how they were previously. And he said the main reason for that is they don't have Pablo Mari no more. He was the guy that organized that defense. He was the guy that enabled them to be able to play a very high line. And basically, he was the guy that was able to make them impose their style on other teams. So he was a very important player for Flamengo and out there in Brazil. And Flamengo, listen, I know people might look at it and say, oh, well, the Brazilian league. Don't this Brazilian league, by the way. They've got some great players there. But obviously, that team was a good team because they got to the final of the sort of Super Cup where they only lost to Liverpool. And that was on penalties.
True.
No, sorry, extra time, sorry. So Pablo Mari might, we've not really seen much of him, but it might be a decent player.
Yeah, no, I can't lie to you. Mari's an interesting one. I think when he first came in, I thought, typical of this board, loan signing, cheap one. Let's see how this works out. And when he got his chance, I was very impressed. I think when he got injured, what got exposed most is his lack of pace, because he was done for pace when he got injured, and it exposed him a bit, and it was him catching up that caused the injury. And I think in this league, that's going to be something that holds him back. But what I've liked, I've talked about the mismanagement of stuff over the last years and that a lot. What I've actually liked this last 8 months is we brought in Mari, loan, he impressed in spurts, and then we signed him up 7.8 mil. That is fine. He's of a good age, good experience, like you said. But we still bought Gabriel in. So when we signed Mari, I thought typical of this club, 8 mil, cheap signing centre-back. Arteta asked you for a left-sided centre-back and you went cheap again. But then we went and bought Gabriel too. So I thought to myself, actually, Gabriel's our left centre-back. Mari's now rotation and comes in if need be. And I like that. That's what we need to be doing, because we needed to replace 7 centre-backs, like we need to replace 3-4 central midfielders. So we're going to have to buy depth and rotation too, maybe before we buy the first teamer. So with Mari, I've been impressed. I'm happy. And I think Saliba, Gabriel, Mari moving forward and then add a couple of defenders in there. I'd be happy to see how that works out, definitely.
And as this guy says here, where'd it go? You're forgetting about Martinelli. He's still got to come back as well.
Quality, yeah, quality. I'm very interested in Martinelli because he's special, Rob. You know that. You already know what we've seen from him. He's special. I want to see how he comes back in, whether he'll play left wing cutting in or will he go up top and be the replacement for Laka. But we need a spark, you know. And as Wenger used to say, like a new signing. So let's hope he is like that new signing, Martinelli, and comes in those bits because we need it.
Does Callum Chambers get a shout back in as well? No, he'll be coming back on injury.
Nah, Rob. I think there's a lot of players that.
Says, would you go for Chambers as a CDM or centre back to partner Gabriel or partner Partey? He was doing bits before injury. I don't know about doing bits, but I certainly thought before he got injured, he was the best centre off out of the rest of the players that are there.
Yeah, he was. I'd say that too. You know, it's not much to say when you look at our defense, but he definitely was. And I think this season he's at the club. When he comes back in, like I said, it's through gritted teeth, Luis right now. But don't get it twisted. Luis can get a red card and concede a pen. And then next week I'll be saying hold him back in. So when Chambers comes back, I think he'll get his chance. I just think long term, he's a player that's let us down also far too many times. So he's also a player that, you know, 3 strikes and you're out. And he's one of them.
Okay. I'm going to do a couple more. It's been brilliant tonight. So many comments coming in. Thank you very much for that, as usual. Also, don't forget we've got a brand new AFTV Mobi app. The link is in the description. All you got to do is click onto that. Talking of building, putting your team together, there's a feature on it where you can put together your team before games, so you can choose your formation and stuff like that. Really, really good feature. So make sure you get involved in that. But no, the response tonight has been absolutely phenomenal. MTJ says, Mari has shown for me that he's too slow for the Premier League. He's also left-sided, and Gabriel has got that slot. We should have invested in a proven centre-back.
I think the depth is good, you know. It's better Mari comes in if Gabriel, anything happens to him, God forbid, then Mustafi.
You need depth, man. Look at Liverpool at the moment with all the injuries they've got, but the thing is, they have depth.
Yeah. Look, we're losing 3 centre-backs at the end of the season, Rob. Socrates, Mustafi and Luis, all contracts done. So all of a sudden, we're light, you know, especially because Holden and Chambers, you know, I think their time's up too. So depth is good. Rotation is good because we need that.
I reckon some of those guys could... It really wouldn't surprise me to see some of them move on in January.
True, yeah.
Like Socrates and players like that. I mean, are they really going to stick around till the summer? I wouldn't be surprised until they move on.
I think so.
Right, I'm going to get one more comment here.
Let's do it.
The wonderful Wizard of Ozil. So we know what he's going to come off with. He says the year is 2028. Still no top 4. AFTV and their clowns still refuse to admit that they fucked up about Wenger. Neville was right. We will never forget who was responsible for the fall of Arsenal.
That was this one. Do you want to answer it, because I don't mind.
I thought I put that because he's messaged it about 20 times, that guy. But listen, my thing to the sorry.
I still stand by that decision with my chest, because I always said, as much as I wanted Wenger out, he is protecting the problem. And he was protecting the problem. You know, how many more things have you seen come out from this board, from Emery telling us we've got no money, he could only make loan signings, and he wanted these players and got these players? We didn't hear that before from managers because Wenger protected it all. He was the glue that kept everything together in place for Kroenke. You know, so I stand by my decision.